Good evening. Welcome to Larry Rinker Golf Live. Hope you're having a great week. My special guest tonight, Dr. David Wright. And Doc, it's always great to have you on the show, my friend.
My pleasure, Larry. Thank you.
You know, it's always been fun. I've been using your system now for 4.5 years, and I've measured over 1,000 people now. And it's a pretty amazing system. I really believe we're helping people find their natural swings. And Larry Rinker Golf Live is on Thursday, 7:30 to 8 p.m. Eastern. We're going to take the next couple of Thursdays off with the holidays, but we'll be back in 2021. Gift certificates are available, and you can get those at larryrinker.com. You can find out about those. Also, my new book is out in paperback, The Journeyman. So you can find that at larryrinker.com. And then the PNC Championship is this week. I'm the starter on the first tee, and I took this picture this morning. Tiger Woods playing for the first time with his 11-year-old son, Charlie. Tomorrow is day 2 of the Pro-Am, and then the tournament starts on Saturday. It's a 2-day event. We have 20 teams, over 10 Hall of Famers playing this week. So it's a pretty cool event, and it's hosted at my home here in Florida at the Ritz-Carlton Golf Club Orlando. It's going to be on Golf Channel and NBC this weekend. So should be a fun week, and nothing better than playing golf with your family during the holidays and enjoying the Christmas season. And then here is Dr. David Wright, top 100 teacher. And Doc, always great to have you on the show. You're continuing to do your research, and it's just pretty amazing. You and I spoke before the show. Don't think we want to go there because you're still working on some things. But other than that, what's kind of new and exciting in the world of Wright Balance?
Well, if you look at most players or most people, we've talked about this on your show before. The right shoulder's down and the right hip is up, and we have now. We're in 13 countries around the world. We have Wright Balance professionals, and they experience with us. They actually help out on the research, 4 or 5 of those professionals. What we've done is we've developed an exercise program, and we're able to level the hips and shoulders, and we're able to change the address position of a player. Seldom do we go behind a player. As a teacher, I seldom would go behind and watch the swing, unless I was working on, in the years past, holding that right knee position, make sure it's stable at the top. I might crawl in there and hold that knee, but that's the only time. So as we start to look at players from behind, you can see the changes in that hip line.
Well, let's take a look at one of those players, and someone that you spent a lot of time with, my sister, Lori.
And as a disclaimer, she gave me permission to use these shots. So.
Okay, so here is Lori from the back, and we definitely can see here that
on the left side, you'll see that her right hip is higher. Now, with the right hand lower, this is going to impact the swing, and the entry of the spine into the pelvis is very different here. So we're looking at an injury down the road with repetition. The picture on the right is following the exercise we're talking about.
And now it looks as if her right hip's a little lower than left hip.
It becomes a natural process. And we see this, as I said, you can see just the opposite with the left shoulder down, left hip up. You won't see this from behind. You'd see just the opposite. But for a right-handed golfer, you do want that left hip a little higher. So with the rotation, makes the rotation so much easier.
Well, someone that we just talked about, Tiger Woods. So here is Tiger, and we can get rid of these drawings, but it's pretty interesting that
his right hip
definitely can see this hip line here, and where the right hip is lower than the left, and now looks more here. And I mean, granted, he's looking at the target, but it almost looks like his head is kind of tilted this way too.
Yes, yeah. So, well, and again, the one on these are different years for Tiger. I'd say his workout program probably got him in good shape for the photo on the left, however he was working out. And the photo on the right, well, I'm not sure about the year. It's difficult online to find photos. These are still shots off a video. So,
Right. So looking at your next frame that you sent me here is Nick Faldo, who looks quite a bit out of balance. I mean, you might say his shoulders are there, but geez, look at this sweater line. And I don't know, it just,
if you take a look at his left hand, Larry, that is almost always how much internal rotation he has.
yeah, so it's turned in.
And that generally means the hips are open. And the right shoulder there, I would say, is lower.
Yeah.
And if, I don't know if I don't think you have the posture one, but there is a shot here. This is actually out of his book in the late 80s. And he's teaching posture. When he puts his hands on his hips, you can see how much higher the right hip is. And with that sweater line, it's pretty easy to see as well.
So on the right here, we have an out of balance skeleton. So this is what you're saying. You see somebody with their right hip higher. This is the way Lori was. The right hip is higher than the left hip. And then all of a sudden the right shoulder's lower than the left shoulder. And gee whiz, the knees, everything just, how do you hit a golf ball with that?
Well, the knee issue we've corrected. I'm not going to go into that because of how we've done it, but you'll notice the collapsed arch comes out of this entire process as well. For years, I just thought my left foot was wider than my right. My left foot's wider because I have, and I think most people will find when they look at it, a collapsed arch on one side. And it's generally the opposite side where the shoulder configuration is. So we have an exercise program, as I said, and that program has to be done in all 9 stance widths from a printout we get from the body measurements. And Matthew Paradis. Matthew is a golf professional from Quebec City. He works with me. He's a coach at a university there. Matthew's worked with me extensively on the research, and he put this graphic together. And it's pretty straightforward. 9 stance widths, about 2 seconds in each of these positions. 4 seconds total, I should say, in each of these positions. And you go through all 9 stance widths. Takes about 2 minutes, a little over.
So here's the 9 stance widths. The blue 1, 2, 3 is low core, 4, 5, 6 mid, 7, 8, 9 upper. And that's one of the things when a Wright Balance professional measures our students, everybody has upper, mid, and low core stance widths.
So once those are covered, the illustration on the right is, you see the shoulders level, hips level. We still get that pronation of the knee on the opposite side of the hip and shoulder issue. That's corrected with a very small insole, by the way, for the arch support. Totally corrected with that. And now we've changed the player for balance. Now that for a right-handed player, that right hip is going to be lower at address. Much easier rotation, insertion point of the spine into the pelvis is perpendicular. So everything changes just after 2 to 3 minute exercise.
Wow. And basically here he is standing straight up and down, and then he comes down the ball and pinches his shoulders in or rolls them in. Like we'll see Nick Faldo here. This setup looks that way.
Right. So why can Faldo, the question becomes, and I asked, why could Faldo, such a great player, hit the ball as well as he did with that configuration you saw in the photo earlier? basically what he is doing in that stance with is that rolled shoulder position that with my students, I taught against. I said, no, you never want to roll the shoulders. You don't want that rolled back. You want a straight back. So that's the way I was taught, and that's the way I taught. But that, I believe, is how Nick Faldo played from that position by making that isometric move. It's a tensegrity move. And that's another fascinating story of where that comes from. Very quickly, though, at the cellular level, at the Wyss Institute at Harvard Medical, a fellow by the name of Don Ingber, who's a cellular biologist and a physician, they have 200-300 researchers, but Don Ingber found through tensegrity, which is an isometric or a compression of a cell, he created biochemical changes without, contrary to what cellular expression has been looked at over the years. That's the microcosm, and what we're doing with tensegrity is a macrocosm. By creating that isometric pressure to a structure, we're able to see symmetry return, and that's where the level shoulders, level hips come from.
So really, truthfully, any golfer out there, if they want to get their body more in alignment, I see all the time players set up with their hips open. We can do these tests where we put a bar on people's hips and can show them how they're just the way their body is set up. It's out of balance, out of symmetry, and doing the exercises, all of a sudden your hips are square.
Absolutely.
And one of the big kryptonites, the first kryptonite for that upper core player is they set up with their hips open. And if that right hip is higher, like Lori had, it's going to be hard to make a turn, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You're in your own way.
And we saw with Lori, you can chat with her, we saw performance changes immediately. The thing that if you're doing the exercise, that secondary tilt, with that, they tend not to set that. And Lori lost everything a little bit left until she got that left hip a little higher. It's not extreme. It matches the carrying angle there as well. But so as you go into the ball with shaft lean from in the address position, that left hip naturally wants to go into that higher position.
Yeah. And you just think, especially with the driver getting a little here so you can swing a little out and up on it to be a little more efficient, get a little more distance with your club head speed. That, boy, I can, somebody's the other way trying to hit a driver.
Yeah, it definitely changes angle of attack. There's no question. Yeah.
That's definitely going to be tough, but it's pretty neat that, okay, I'm just going to get my grips. I'm going to bend over, roll those shoulders in. And I've shown students this, it's part of your voodoo magic, Doc, when we show people this.
Well, there's really a great deal. That's why I mentioned Don Ingber. There is tremendous amount of science behind this. The Wyss Institute, they're working on the COVID-19. They actually have an organ on a chip. They have lungs on a chip, a microchip that they're able to use. Yeah, functioning. They have the entire body on a chip at Harvard Medical. What they're doing is just phenomenal. And I've just borrowed a small segment of that in the tensegrity model.
Well, Doc, as we move on, some of the research that you did back in 2003 included the team you put together, Dr. Frank Jobe, best known for the Tommy John surgery. But it's ironic, Doc, that when we first had a fitness truck rolling on the PGA Tour in 1984, Dr. Jobe was our orthopedic, and Centinela Hospital of Los Angeles was our sponsor. So it's Dr. Jobe goes back to 84 and maybe earlier with the PGA Tour. And now you and he did this research study with this just great team of doctors, Dr. Michael Millman, who contributed the carrying angle to the research team. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Robert Watkins, spine doctor, did Peyton Manning's neck surgery, Dwight Howard's back. I think he operated my friend Payne Stewart. There's probably some PGA Tour players that he did surgeries on, but his client list is who's who. Incredible. And then, Your brother-in-law, which I found out a few months ago, Dr. James Smith, helps out with the algorithms of getting the measurements to determine our stance widths. And then there you are. You have 2 doctorates, and you set up the research design, wrote the protocols, and ran the balance study for the duration of the project. But basically 3 swing models, low, mid, and upper core, where we can kind of really explain how pretty much any swing on the PGA Tour works. There might be a couple of outliers. You might say Furyk and Sergio might be outliers, but here are those 9 core regions: 9, 8, 7 upper core, 4, 5, 6 mid, 1, 2, 3 low. And there I am standing in my 9 stance widths. We get height, weight, shoulder width, sternum width, and shoe size. And that gives us stance widths. And low core player, think of Lee Trevino, David Duval, Paul Azinger, Dustin Johnson. Strongest grip and hips most rotated at impact. I think most teachers, Doc, would agree today that your grip has to match hip rotation at impact. And I always get a kick out of it. People think they're going to square the club face with body rotation. You actually, body rotation is a face opener. That's why people whose hips are rotated the most have the strongest grip. Then your mid-core player, basically the hybrid, as you say, between the upper and low core player. But these are the pretty swings, aren't they? Pick your favorite: Adam Scott, Tom Pertzer, Steve Elkington, Jason Day. This is basically your average tour player swing model that I think most teachers are working off of, don't you?
I would agree. Yeah. The tour winner, most of your tour winners, and I'm leaving out obviously Dustin Johnson and a few others, but most of your tour winners are in the middle core.
Yeah, and then we have the upper core, which has the most neutral grip, and the hips are the least amount rotated at impact. And that would be Patrick Reed, Webb Simpson, Jack Nicklaus, Phil Mickelson, yours truly. And what's been interesting on this journey with you, Doc, now measuring over 1,000 people, after the first year, the first 100, 66% were upper core, which thanks to you, you helped solve the riddle of how my swing works as an upper core player. I kept trying to get my hips more rotated and lag, and all that I did was block it off the planet to the right. But it's interesting how now I'm helping golfers that are upper core like me. I mean, I feel like I'm sought out by my students because they've seen our videos and our presentations and say, I'm upper core, I'm going to see Rinker. I'm going to get that measurement and find out for sure if I'm upper core. And here's that carrying angle we spoke about, Doc, and your friend Dr. Melman is the one that came up with this.
And this, Larry, is the most significant, one of the most, I mean, we have the stance widths, we understand posture, we understand the regions, but this is really the angle of range of motion throughout the body. It shows up, it depends on what core region we're talking about, 10, 15 places at address and repeats through the swing. So it is measured 90 degrees to the ground down the forearm. And that's a digital protractor you're using there. That's what we always use. And it's a pretty simple measurement, but one of the more difficult for our professionals. It's a little delicate. You have to gently rotate the palm forward with your arms at your side to find that measurement. But it's always the thigh angle. And right now we're looking for it back to that right hip. Lower now, we're able to see it in much more easily in the spine angle at address.
So I've learned that tool's called a goniometer.
Yep, that's what physical therapists call it. That's what, in fact, all of our research in Dr. Job's lab, they used a goniometer. And we know that's a carpenter's digital protractor, but it's easy and it works just for that one angle.
Well, it helps us tell our students what the angle should be of the left and right hand. There I am My carrying angle is 159, and I'm upper core. There's my grip. And if you have a complementary grip, which means you have the same carrying angle in both hands, then that means they match. And it's amazing, Doc, when we look at this, how if you look at my I'm just trying to get a drawing tool here, but if you look at
Yeah,
my
that
fingers here on
angle,
this angle, if my grip gets too strong, this angle, I can't turn as much. My range of motion and freedom on my backswing, because the left hand affects your ability for a right-hander to turn on the backswing. I can't
and
turn as well.
that's a great example, Larry, of what I was just saying. This angle shows up in the grip, and not only through the body, but also in the grip, the strength and weakness of the grip. It's easy to test as well.
And then this right hand, it affects your ability to turn on the forward swing. So it also is freedom and range of motion. And we now can explain for people like my brother Lee, who are golfers that set up with the right hand on top. Why would they have a weak grip, weaker than neutral? And it's always amazing to me, Doc, when somebody tests out that their grip should be more there, because I'm a little, it's always been teachers are leery to change someone's grip. The old saying is, if you change somebody's grip in the first lesson, you might not see them again. But I've been surprised how many people, when we try that, it's almost like, oh, I used to grip it like that, or somebody told me I shouldn't do that, or it's kind of interesting. Most of the time when I go there, obviously that's going to make the club face more open at impact, but pretty interesting. And then now the carrying angle shows up. Now it shows up here.
Great photograph. Yeah, that's a
Shows up right there. That gives us that angle. If you have a complementary grip like I do, that shows us that angle, and then that gives us our ball position. So pretty amazing, Doc, that a beginner golfer, we can tell them how their swing works and how they should grip the club in both the left and right hand without really seeing them hit a golf ball.
Yes. Yeah.
And it just give them the simple things of how they pivot, how rotated are their hips at impact, the stance widths. Holy cow. Stance widths are so big. I had a lot of talent work this past week, come to see me. I had an 11-year-old that was amazing. I had a 13-year-old that is one of the best 13-year-olds in the country. And it was pretty interesting. This 13-year-old was upper core, Doc.
Yeah.
I mean, hips were not that rotated at impact. And let's see if I think I can bring it up here. I'll go to my V1. Here's Justin Thomas, who's playing this week. We're just kind of neat with V1 and this pressure mat. And you can just see here he is really jumping. I think this is an interesting one, Doc, to talk about with people, to talk about how
ground force,
the guys that jump, that's going to be a mid-core. Even though his hips are that rotated, that would be mid-core because of the way he's using verticals.
Right.
And
your upper and middle core players use the vertical.
Yeah.
Actually, your mid core, as the hybrid, uses the linear or horizontal, rotational, and vertical. They use all three.
But here's this 13-year-old, and look at his hip rotation and impact.
Yeah, he looks like a little bit like Kevin Stadler there.
Yeah, it looks
that's
a little
what
bit
he
like.
That's what he looks like at impact. I'm what I meant to say.
Right, and it looks like somebody tried to get him to stay down and stay in posture. Whereas if you look at me as your upper core, look how much I'm using verticals and jumping. Look where my head is compared to this young man.
Yeah.
It's funny. I think people think if you stand up and come out of posture, look at my posture here at impact, Doc, and then look at it at address. So you could say, okay, man, he's really standing up, coming out of posture. at impact, but they would say, oh, that's really hard on the back, but it really isn't, is it?
No, it's been referred to as early extension.
Right.
It has, I've heard many, many different names. I'm humping, I'm doing all this.
Right. And they draw this line. I don't know when they started drawing the line on her butts, but
Right.
oh, that's the early extension coming off the wall. And you see these guys with the chair out there, and they're hitting balls, trying to keep their butt on the chair. Well, do you think Justin Thomas is going to stay on the chair with his verticals?
Absolutely not.
You think he's staying on this chair? Now maybe he is, but I doubt his hip's going back that far. Who knows if somebody's holding this camera, if it's actually on a tripod. But
Well, he is, your upper core layer is usually clearing. So your the hips are actually, I don't know that stall is a good word, but they're going to rise. And
right.
the reason is their balance. Their balance is on the balls of the feet. So that's going to create when you start to get back to impact, you'll feel yourself have to change direction. You'll move up. Justin Thomas's balance is between the center of the arch and just behind the balls of the feet. He's got to be even to the center of the arch there because of, you can see how much clearance he had.
Right.
But your upper core player is not going to stay in posture when they use the vertical, when they use around vertical. And that's all balance. That's all.
Yeah. But pretty interesting. If we go back into this V1 and just look at it, just to kind of wrap this up a little bit. But here's my sister Lori. And then here is my friend Kathleen. And if there's a low core and mid core. And if you watch Lori, this is these classic swings. Lee and I got kidded our whole life. She had the best swing in the family. But there she is, hips rotated 40 to 45 degrees at impact. But then here's that low core player opposite of me and the young man I pulled up. And then there she is. Both of them are at impact, and quite a bit of rotation there by Kathleen on the right. I really like what Mike Adams said. If you have fast hips like Kathleen, don't slow them down. So if somebody's really rotated, don't slow them down. And then if you have the pretty swing here, that they would say, okay, that's about right. But if you're me, don't try and rotate these hips faster. It's okay. You can play great golf from any of these three positions, just a matter of, are you upper, mid, or low core? And I think way too many upper core players people are trying to get them to stay in posture, turn more through the ball, and get more forward shaft lean. And boy, we jump the most, Doc, as upper core players.
And you're looking at the majority of males.
Yes.
I played baseball. I don't know if it had anything to do. I was low core. If you look at, I've seen some videos of Steph Curry, definitely low core. He plays left-handed, definitely low core. Hips are clearing. Your external shoulder rotation is going to really determine. If you see a lot of external shoulder rotation back, yep.
I don't have any. Can't move it.
And the players who have a lot, I have a lot of external shoulder. That's going to give me velocity off the mound.
Well, did I have more as a lefty pitcher? I guess I do have a little more here.
But what's interesting, if you change stance widths, if I go to an upper core, I measure in my upper core stance with about 161. Mid core, yeah, so I have that much external shoulder rotation. If I go to mid core, I'm more 156. I have a little more, and 151 or so lower core. I work to get more. So we know that, for example, if you hang and stretch, you reduce your external shoulder rotation. So to increase it, we stretch. There are some other things we'll talk about another time that we're seeing in terms of being able to increase that. But Now you're looking at hand size?
Well, I'm just looking at, we measure the hand for hand size, and I just wanted to, show people where you can find out more about Wright Balance at wrightbalance.com. Is that the correct website now, Doc?
It is. Yeah, it is, Larry. We've
Okay.
been around the block, but that is it. That's the newest one, and there's a lot of information on there now.
And I'd like to thank my sponsors, Titleist FootJoy, the Ritz-Carlton Golf Club Orlando, and the Red Sky Golf Academy in Vail, Colorado. Also, FlightScope V1 and Wright Balance. And Doc, always great to have you on the show. I just got to thank you for what you're really doing in helping us really speed up the process to helping our students find out what's going to work for them. And I
Right.
think most people would agree we're different. We got Charlie Woods playing with his dad. It's kind of interesting. He looks pretty rotated with that swing like his dad did when he was younger.
Right.
So he might be a low core player right now with a little stronger grip, like we saw Tiger when he was first started winning U.S. juniors and U.S. amateurs. But, it'd be interesting to see this young man's career. But, as we get older, Tiger's not as rotated as he was when he was a junior. He's 44 now.
He's mid-core now. Looking at some of
Yeah.
his old photos, he's low. We are definitely lower.
Yeah. But, it's always great to have you on. Thanks for helping with everything. And if you want to find out more, go to wrightbalance.com. Till after the holidays on Thursday, 7:30 to 8 p.m. Eastern. You can find Larry Rinker Golf Live on Facebook. Till next time, keep swinging.